Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, the United States flag, and the republic for justice and justice.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here,
Jackie Boyd, I'm here.
Kevin Ricketson here.
No,
Well, you weren't at the last meeting either. Is that,
Chris Reed, is anybody?
I think he's only called him one time that I can remember. Make a motion to approve the agenda.
second it.
Aye.
Were minutes sent out?
No, I think. Officially by the village council.
And I think we kind of went through that last meeting, and I think we're pretty set on it.
Basically. So UNM's trying to wrap up both. Mr. Chairman, UNM's trying to wrap up both requests, the update of the parcel layer. And we've got a request to put addresses for utilities for all the fire hydrants within the village. So when there's a response to a call, they get an idea of how close the nearest hydrant is to that call. But we want to give it with an address with a W, so it doesn't get confused with any other addresses that are in the system that we know this is a utility address only. And they're trying to wrap up both of those requests this week. So once that's done, we can start looking, transitioning to a live version for the public and a private version for department staff. But we really need those updated parcels of what boundaries have moved, what lots have been combined, that kind of stuff. And then put the overlay, a new overlay for hydrants as well.
So how long do you think it'll be for the public pieces available?
That should not take too long after that. It's just a matter of how do we get the permission set up for folks to view privately amongst the departments? And then what do we want as a public view now that we've got the parcels updated? I don't think that'll take long.
And can we put some emphasis on getting that out there? I'm really concerned about what the public has at their disposal because they don't have anything right now.
Right now, it's just a PDF. It's a static map. You got to zoom in or print it out and really figure out what's where. And the lines may not be correct, right? So, but in talking to the UNM GIS department this morning, they promised whatever that value is this week.
Okay. So maybe by next month, we might have something available to the public.
Yeah, and I also know that there's a genuine interest of the departments as well. The water department, streets department, fire department, because it also helps with their responses and inventories, capital improvements, so.
I just, on them, yeah, it's very important for them too, but I feel like, and maybe this is a mistaken assumption, but I feel like there's a lot of them that have been around long enough that they kind of know a lot of it.
Yeah.
So, but you got somebody new that's coming here, somebody that's trying to get into something here that, they're lost right away, so.
Yeah, we very rarely have zoning amendments, right? I mean, the last one I think we did was behind the stables. It was the 183 acres. Yeah, going up the hill to make all that just one, because it wasn't clear where the split was between the Rs and the, so at any rate, I don't know of any other zoning map amendment that we've had to do, but either way, it would be ideal, because everybody's moving that direction of viewing for the public and of viewing for departments, so. That's all I got, Bubba.
Discuss the P and Z commission role in the planning, village planning process. Should we do more than reviewing zoning? Because that's not what's, go ahead.
No, I think, Evan, you sent out an email of
Yeah,
some of the responses with relation to the comprehensive plan,
right.
which this is the only first view commission that's by statute looks at it before it goes to council. So I just don't know if everybody's had a chance to,
Well, those are just, just drafts to get into this, to discuss while we're here.
yeah,
But I don't know if they made it on the agenda. Is this where we discuss those?
but since it's old business and and it's on the title, I mean, if you want to talk about some of the drafts, bullets that you've made, that's where we could do that now.
Well, I don't know. Did you guys get copies of that?
I did, but I didn't have a chance to read it very carefully.
Well, maybe we should just table that till next month then and then go. Look. Yeah, sure. Sure.
Also move.
Second. I second.
Mr. Chairman, this is Chief Vance, if I may. Are you viewing the screen, for the presentation or no?
He's not.
Okay, gotcha. For the members here, I can share screen, with a short presentation. I think I can.
You can, just a moment.
This is way up, it looks like on the southwest side of the valley. Bubba.
There you go.
Oh,
Could you make that full screen, please?
Is this up via Maria, right?
Yeah, up in that area.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's that area.
Presently, we have the Aspen Tank site. We own the lot. On that lot, there is a cell phone tower already existing. So both the water tanks, the two water tanks that are existing, would you mind scrolling down?
Sure thing.
We have an aerial video or aerial shot of that, and it's up on the screen now. If I can just point out here, we have an existing cell phone tower that's there. It's owned by AT&T and two existing water tanks that are on that. The encroachment would be onto the easement that's here for the green belt that's on this side. And it's roughly about here through that lot line. So we're just asking to add on a radio tower here. This past year, we added our public safety repeater onto that site. We moved it from the resort tower. And since we've done that, we've had significantly increased communication. That's made a drastic improvement for us. But because it's located on the ladder on the north side of the tower, we're getting a little bit of shadowing for everything north of it. So we have $100,000 grant that was awarded a couple of years ago to pay for it. I inherited that when I became chief, and we've been trying to just do something with that, improve communications. We've done all the surveying and everything else. The points that are located by the red triangles here are for guy wire locations. And the center point is gonna be where the tower is. It's gonna be a 100-foot tower supported by guy wires that are, to each of those anchor points. And, really, we're ready, it's, shovel ready, we're ready to hit the ground running. We just needed to make sure that we,
And so how
have
far
this approval.
is it the cables that are in the setback or is it?
So the entire setback, is along this property line.
I-
So this is already in the setback.
Yeah.
These are on the setback. This is just the other additions of the guy wires that would be extending from the radio tower. It's already all in the setback. But we just didn't, we wanted to come before this committee and make sure that, we were okay with proceeding with that, even though there's already been, adjustments to that or structures placed on that, within that easement.
Yeah, so the only concern, I mean, not only, but a concern I might have here is, the lot owners in 140 and 139 there.
Yeah, we made I'll let Ricky speak to this, but we did make a public announcement and reach out to each of the lot owners. We only got one response, as I understand. I'll let you take it from here, sir.
Yes, we sent a letter out to all of them, informing them this should be happening today, what we're doing. If they had any issues to contact us. We only got contacted by one owner and he was just calling to say he approved it.
You know,
Let
what
us know. It was Mr. I don't have it. I think it was lot, you got that cut out there, lot 139.
I was hoping to be one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, lot 139 right above. He just was calling to say that he's fine with it all and wanted to let us know that the road was a little bit washed out from the rain.
How tall did you say this one's gonna be?
100-foot tower.
And the one that's there is,
It's a slight over.
but it's not gonna be significantly taller than the existing one.
No, I don't believe so. I would guess, just by eyeball test, there's a significant, drop off. This is about 20 foot taller than this point,
I see.
but it's about 130-foot tower or 150-foot cell phone tower. So I
So,
don't
mean,
expect.
they already have, whoever already has a tower in their view, another one there is not gonna really
Yeah,
freak them out because they already have one there, so.
correct. I believe it's gonna be shorter and most of the pines around there are as tall as most of the towers. Or I'm sorry, most of the trees are as tall as the towers. It's not everything to the, I'm getting turned around because that's kind of upside down for me, but everything to the west of it is already green belt. That's kind of along the ridge, and that's kind of the point for us to get kind of up and over the ridge. And it will drastically improve our radio communications into the Taos Canyon, hopefully down to the hospital. And then as far as to the south and Black Lake and all that, it should extend our coverage significantly as well. And we just, connected the two repeaters, that one that's there with Green Mountain. And so now we have really good coverage across the Moreno Valley, across Eagle Nest and all that. So it should be a drastic improvement for communications.
That's awesome. That's great.
The added benefit to this is if we were to choose another location is we would have to bring power to that site. We would have to bring fiber optic. And the building that houses the radio communication stuff, and we have all of that stuff, the infrastructure on site for this location, and that's why this was chosen. Anything else would be much more expensive. Any other questions?
It's Highway 434.
Also move.
I'll discuss it. I'm not voting to approve it right now. Well, then let's, are you saying you want to approve this agenda point? I'll make a motion to discuss this item.
Mr. Chairman, it's Rick here. So what they're asking for variance for is the new townhome site. The The variance says 50 feet off the property line, and their plans, which I know you can't see right now, but I'll get you a copy of this as well. Their plans are their closest building is 10 feet off the property line, so they're asking for the variance of that extra 40 feet. So they could keep 2 units, otherwise, if it's not approved, they'll have to remove 2 whole units from their site plan. So they're asking for a 40-foot variance. Because they're only got 10 feet when they should be 50 feet, as far as it goes from Highway 434.
So they were aware of this, they were aware of this setback when they drew these plans up.
I assumed they were,
So there's a second part to
I
that.
just thought was had more to stay on this than I did.
There's a second part to it, and that's this building here. So originally this got approved as just, you'll notice it says residential/commercial. This was just a commercial building with a parking lot here. So this site and the Angel Fire Crossing sites, they've made application with Housing New Mexico to help finance the infrastructure costs to come in for water, sewer, and road. And in exchange, Housing New Mexico wants 5 housing units for sale for workforce housing. Not a rental, but an ownership. And so the second part of the variance request is to amend that note on the large rectangle that previously just said commercial. But now gives, because the zoning allows commercial and residential, because it's a C1 in the overlay. But because that note just said commercial, they had no ability to change that to any residential option if they wanted to consider it. I think now that they're looking at getting additional finance options to have flexibility to put other units, to keep these 2, but also if they need to spread this out and do commercial on that side. One of the things that they've discussed is maybe doing the first floor commercial, second floor residential. But that wasn't an option that they could do because the previous site plan just said commercial and just showed a parking lot. So it's 2 parts, keep the 2 buildings that are there on the southeast corner, but also flexibility on the north corner to provide additional housing and or commercial as well. Knowing that they're also gonna have to give to the state 5 units. The people who would be eligible for those homes to buy would have to earn a minimum, no, not a minimum, a maximum of $121,390 a year. So that's for the household. And they'd have to stay in the home for 5 years. They can't sublease it. The village nor the developer are responsible for managing the income level and make sure they're not subleasing. That's the responsibility of the mortgage company that finances it. So Housing New Mexico is going to be considering this application for funding probably in January. This site plus the Angel Fire Crossing site as well. So there would be 10 units for ownership as opposed to rental units on this site. So the variance, if you'll notice, there's how many square feet that they're having to give up on the front, the sides, and the rear. Plus the code says you've got to have minimum distance for your drives to come in. That's a factor as to why they've made the request of what is available left on the property. Once you consider the 50s and the sides and the rears, the rear yard is, I think, 25 feet is what it has, whereas workforce housing site is only a 10-foot setback on the other side. So here it's more than double than what's required on the property behind it. So these are the factors that why they prepared this exhibit, to give you an idea on the square footages of just how much is encumbered by a setback. They're still gonna have the 10 in the front. But once you take in the aggregate of what they're trying to put into the site, there is an impact with the required setbacks.
So this is the only site plan that we have so far. They haven't drawn up any alternatives. Tried to reconfigure these in a different way to still get these 2 units in without this variance.
They had looked at previous layouts prior to this setup when they were looking at getting a site plan approved. I think you might have considered this a year ago, when this came to you just for a site plan approval. But there was different ideas. In fact, there was even a conversation with the village of maybe trying to do a loop road at one time to come in from, north of Zeb's and then come out south. So they have looked at different configurations on this. And this is the ultimate design that they actually came up through there was a meeting about 3 weeks ago. We were on the phone 2.5 weeks ago with the on-call engineer, looking at their water connections, layouts, drainage setups as well. That would still work within this configuration. But this isn't the first draft that came out. This is probably number 4 or 5, because they did have other variables that they were trying to consider. Particularly with the road layout, and this is the plan that they want to bring forward.
I guess I would feel better about seeing some of the alternatives.
Of what they tried.
Mm-hmm. And why they rejected some of them. I mean, I guess that's where I'm at on this. I'd like to see some more information about what they have tried and why they situated things where they were. Is it a matter of this works better for the sewer, this works better for the electricity, this works better for the amount of square foot you can get on that? What is it?
Again, I think all of those were considered to get where we are today. You know, if they had looked at working with the village on a road loop, if that would have worked, I think we would have seen that, you know, and I think that loop was coming in. Not necessarily, I'm only guessing of where the loop would have come in, but, you know, this is Zeb's right here. So it's just on the north side is where you got your access easement coming in. It might have come in through the back,
It was.
to just do a straight shot out.
Yeah.
Rather than the hammerheads. So I do know that there were other alternatives to look at. This is still the one that.
I mean, I'd like to see a couple of like alternative proposals, like if we did it this way, here's what we would lose. If we did it this way, here's how much more we would lose. And then,
Well, everything in blue is in the setback that they would lose. Right now, because that's
With
the
the
50-foot
configuration.
setback. Yes, that, any configuration, your 50-foot setback off.
well, everybody's, I mean, that's a known thing. Everybody's subject to that.
Well, yes and no. You do have properties that are non-conforming that don't have the 50. This is one of the few new properties that has to deal with the 50. I think Zeb's is,
So what is the village's view on setbacks on the state highways? Do they have a view, Brett?
I mean, I was involved in these discussions. I don't know that we have an opinion. We just said, these are the rules. You gotta go to P and Z, and you want the setback, they have to approve it or recommend it to the council. Council ultimately will approve or disapprove it. But from the conversations I've been in, we don't really have an opinion beyond you gotta follow the rules.
So there isn't any opinion from the council that you know?
Come to y'all first, and then you'll make your recommendation,
Yeah.
and then it'll go to the council.
I just think this is a lot. This isn't
This
the
is
corner
difficult to
of a
love.
porch or anything like that.
Size.
From a 10 to a 50, you mean? Yeah.
May I ask a question? How far would a building corner be to the edge of the pavement? Would that give you a better perspective of how far that is back from the actual physical roadway?
so typically you need 20 feet from drive surface to a garage door. And I believe these would be 3-story units, first floor for parking, first floor garage. So that gives you an idea of this gap going along in here.
I mean, left to right. How far would it be from this building corner to the actual pavement to the highway?
Oh, that.
I believe it's around 70. So I'm pretty sure from the property line to the highway it should be 60. That's what the highway easement is. So then you're saying you're 10 feet in, there should be around
60-foot easement existing. I
Yeah,
see.
So then you add your 10, you're right, so you got 70 feet.
So it's not right on the highway.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
I would feel a lot better this if I had seen some more attempt to try and fit this square footage in somewhere without getting this big of an easement. Like I say, this isn't just
I don't remember the layout. I remember we did see configuration and a site plan on some of them, but boy, this is
So the last thing you saw, was from roughly here back was a parking lot.
Uh-huh.
And then from here, basically it was almost splitting this rectangle in half. And the back half was a square that said commercial, 2,500 square feet. And then everything in the front was a parking lot. So that's what you saw last. So from the street, you would see parked cars for the commercial stuff instead of, the side of the house. But that was the last thing that you saw.
And so on this pad site, there's no current plans to build anything there?
On this one?
Yeah, the big square, big rectangle.
No, they're looking to do that. They're looking to do either more commercial with second floor residential or just more residential.
But not part of their building this first stuff. That's future stuff?
This right here. This is what they're gonna come in for permit for. These
Now, you're saying the parking lot commercial building is future or part of the initial development? At least I think that's what it is.
So initially, that was just gonna be a pad for parking, maybe guest parking as well, plus your commercial 2,500
See,
square.
I'm also reluctant to give a variance for something that might happen in the future. May as well just give everybody variances up and down the highway because they might build something in the future on.
Well, if they're getting scheduled for hearing for financing in January, an application's turned in now. So, and that funding source has to be spent within a certain amount of time in order for that to stay relevant.
Everything's a rush, man. Fire station's been a rush.
No, I'm just saying the criteria to get financing from the state of New Mexico, it's not an open-ended, just get it done when it's done. They have a time limit for those funds to be awarded and spent to make sure that this project does happen. So in that application, they've been looking at pro formas, they've looked at the history of the developers. I mean, but that's their criteria for them to review, for their board to consider in January. In this instance, they've got an idea with the designer for these units. This change was like mid-October when we met, that let's add flexibility to do residential and or commercial. But it's still gonna be all in the same timeline that the state's gonna say, we need to see something in order for you to justify your financing. Ultimately, you've got it marked, that this is basically a 10,000 square foot 10,000 square foot loss on anything to develop.
But they knew
You've
that
got
when they bought it.
12,000.
They knew that when they bought it. I mean, it's the rules.
It's still,
They didn't
it's
lose
still
it. They're
entitled
trying
to
to
them to
gain
still make this ask.
They never had it. They're trying to gain it. They didn't lose it.
They are losing it with 2 units.
No, they don't have it. They don't have it to lose yet. Anyway, I don't know.
So just to
You guys need more?
if I may, I just want to say that you're right in a sense. Right now, they don't have that. And that's what the rules say, but the rules also say that they can come to you and get a variance. And that's within the rules to do that.
Yeah, sure. That's what we're asking for. I don't know. I'm done discussing it. You guys got anything else? Bubba?
Say aye.
I,
Say nay.
Nay.
But
Did all parties vote?
Bubba, did you vote?
I have not. I'm trying to wrap my head exactly where it is. That's.
Could we table this? Could we table this and get some more information for next month? Like, see, I mean, I don't know if you're, I don't know.
You haven't, motion on the.
Oh, yeah, okay, go ahead, go ahead.
Gotta conclude this, but
Go ahead.
then,
Up to you, Bubba.
then afterwards you could make a motion to table.
Bubba, can you see the exhibits?
No.
Hey, you can't see anything on your phone?
Can't even see it. Come on.
Just didn't know how close he was to a computer. That he could.
I'm gonna abstain.
Could someone send him a photo? What we're looking at? Bubba, do you want me to send you a photo of what's on the screen?
I believe he's already abstained. We're gonna stick to the rules.
Oh,
All right, so what's next then now?
If we vote to table it until next month with more information,
I think that's pretty much what we just did. But
So technically, the vote failed, the tie vote is a failed vote. So you can't table it, it's already failed, but you can bring it back next. It can come back, there's nothing
Yeah.
so different.
Santos, I know that you're pretty involved in this stuff, but that's really what I would like to see is some attempts to remedy this without the need for such a large one at least. That would help me a lot with this.
would it be possible to have them be here to explain some rationale on this?
I'll ask the engineer, because they're the ones that've been doing the layouts with utilities and.
You know, for
layouts
instance,
of
like even
buildings.
like parking, or like these two units in this, where's their parking, you know, just, I mean, even down to that kind of details on some of this stuff.
I can tell you that, their engineers have worked with the village's engineers to make sure that they complied with all the parking requirements and the drainage. If you'll notice, our engineer made them put that retention pond in the upper left-hand corner because the water drains that way. So they have to have a retention pond that we're actually gonna run a culvert out of that pond to our retention pond. Because right there is workforce housing.
Sure.
Oh,
So we have been working with their engineers on this.
Yeah, also,
Our engineers were okay with everything. The only question was the setback.
So,
and so there's actually some sheet flow from True Value that's coming onto the site that they're after to capture, plus whatever they're developing. Get this to this
Now they're
pond.
routing it
Yeah.
out of that pond.
So it's not just what they're doing, it's what they have to capture legally from their neighbor. To get it here, and then you're right, working with the village to get it to another system to get it offsite.
right, so these easements are there for a reason, right? And
The
what's that
easement-
reason? I mean, the setback's there, the 50-foot setback is there for a reason. Right?
So there's two things on
Not
this setback.
arbitrarily somebody,
So there's two differences in this setback. So this is normally a C1 and there's a standard like 20-foot setback for C1. However, this is in the overlay. And that overlay has provisions that supersede your zoning standards. So if you just took this as a standard commercial setback, it's almost half of what's required just because of where this property is located in the village, going up to the blinking light. Then you make a left at the blinking light going to the RV park. That's kind of the boundary of the overlay, right? It bleeds a little bit on the east side of 434, but not much. It's really before you get to Flamingo, if any. So this setback isn't your standard commercial setback as you would see in a normal C1. It's almost double because of that overlay of where it is. So you also have properties where
Why is it so big in the overlay?
I don't know the history for why that 50-foot came to 50 feet.
I'm trying to understand. I mean, it's there for a reason, right? Somebody at one point said, we need this for some reason. Is there something buried there? Is there something
No.
ahead? Is there what is it?
The water utilities are there, but they're not on private property. They run in this zone here. So the village, what, 15 years ago, it's kind of when the SCADA system got put into place or whatever that was to get water,
It's more than 15.
maybe 20. So all of those infrastructure easements have been built out by the village, but they're in this white zone. They're not on the private property side.
Do we need to address the overlay and reduce that?
That's a possibility to look at, because part of what you're seeing now in a lot of zoning amendments is you're not seeing the parking as the first thing that you see. People will prefer to see a building and parking behind it. Okay, well, in the overlay, you're gonna see parking and then the building, right? That's kind of the new thing that people are looking to do, to get eyeballs onto businesses rather than having to look farther back through a parking lot. So if that's a consideration that we look at, but be mindful, the overlay isn't just about a setback. There's design standards for your structure. There's landscaping provisions as well for your property. They haven't asked for anything to deviate on those, right? It's just the setback. But I say that only that if we're going to talk about the overlay as a discussion topic, I think we can narrow it to the setback. Also mindful that there's architectural standards, if your facades are over 100 feet in length.
Variance for all that, you know, that's correct.
Actually, I don't believe the overlay has architectural variances.
I guess this 50-foot though, it's there for a reason. When before I'm comfortable just saying, sure, go ahead and do whatever this and that. I'd like to know what that reason is I'm stepping on.
That's 10 feet. That's 10 feet. So that's from the property line.
That's what he was saying, 70, he's asking the same question I asked.
Yeah.
How far is it from the green to the edge of the road?
Oh, 70.
So it has to be around 70 feet, should be 70.
About 70 feet.
Yeah.
It's 70 feet off the Mountain View Boulevard.
I don't think that
Yeah.
yardage is 70 feet wide.
But the easement's supposed to be 60,
So-
and 10 feet into the property.
I was here when they did the overlay. I gotta tell you, I wasn't involved. So I'm afraid to say anything because it's really just town gossip that I heard
It's
back
better
then.
than anything we got.
So back then, there was, first of all, everybody thought Angel Fire was gonna be the next Dale. And so they wanted room for growth. Hey, we had in the plat a whole route that 18-wheelers were supposed to take around the town. So that was, the part of the big talk. The other thing is, they wanted, as I recall, they didn't want Angel Fire to be a Red River where you have a 2-lane road and all the businesses are right on the edge of the road. Those are the things I recall. Again, that was, a long time ago. And I was not involved, so there may have been other issues. That's just what I recall, the reasoning for it.
Okay, so Rick, can you look into that some? I don't know what resources you have. I don't know what you have. Santos, can you
The way,
show some?
I think there's a way to try to do the research. So in the overlay, the bottom of that section, there's a reference to a year in an ordinance, right? So we could look to see what year was adopted, because it's different from all the other zoning standards. It came in after. Then we can look at the minutes from whatever hearings took place for that to get some background. So there's a path
Yeah,
to try that.
that's what I'm saying. Let's see what this is, because like I said, before I can just crumple on this, I'd like to know what it is, why it was there. And then also, yeah, like if you could show some attempts to reconfigure this where you might, I don't know, you could maybe scoot these things 3 feet closer together. I don't know. But the other thing is on that commercial pad sign, show us a building on it, okay? Don't say this is for the future. If you want a variance there, you're gonna have to show me a building on it.
All right.
May I share a comment? I think I looked up on the map and just zoomed way out, and literally from the 30,000 foot view, if you just kind of look at that swath. It looks as though they left enough room to put, two opposing lanes. So because it's a state highway 434, it looks as though they may have left room for expansion to go two opposing lanes in each direction.
So
It
it's more,
looks like there's a wide enough swath that goes north-south through there, so they give you room for
so you're
expansion.
saying that's more of a state highway consideration than it is a local?
If you wanted to widen the highway 434, you would have the room to do that.
With the 60-foot easement?
Yeah, we have no input on that. I mean, we have input. We could go to their meeting and complain, but we have no jurisdiction or no authority.
Well, does it really matter what we do here? They'll come tear it down.
It's true.
In theory, that is possible, because it is their right of way. And I believe they've had a conversation with DOT about their drive approach proposal to match this layout of, because that's where you want your utilities anyway. You don't want them over a structure. You want them over a part where you can, if you need to, do repairs and dig it out. That's in a driveway. So I know they've had those conversations, you know, and there's a sidewalk that comes here as well. That just goes past almost the, I forget how far down it goes to Alpine, if it goes past Alpine. The sidewalk on 434.
It goes past this, it goes to Alpine.
So that was also the other consideration of looking at this partnership with the states for housing that where folks could actually walk on a sidewalk to get to places, because of that built-in walkability. But that's still new. Those sidewalks weren't there 7 years ago. They're like 3 or 4 years old.
2018, no,
So
so.
after COVID or COVID just changed.
Oh, well, we got the grant in 2018, you're right. They actually put them in COVID.
Yeah.
You're right, we got the grant in 2018.
Well, if that's the discretion that the body wants to look as, since the motion failed, table it to the next meeting, get this detail in order to give better context. I'll see what designs were sketched out. But I do know there were conversations about a loop road. There might have been a cul-de-sac rather than a hammerhead of alignment for utilities. And then something that's fleshed out on this rectangle, conceptually as well. And then you guys aren't gonna have a meeting in December for council. It's just the one in November on the 18th.
We have one in November and one in December.
Oh, there is gonna be a December meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be the third week in December, third Tuesday.
Okay, I
December
thought they got merged, but. Okay. That's fair enough. Did you want anything about what they've submitted to the state?
Everything you can give us.
Yeah,
Because I know the state was pretty far down trying to get them scheduled. And in order to do that, they needed.
You mean as far as the loan goes?
Yeah, but it wasn't just so much the loan, it was also, the history of your developer, other projects, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll see what I can get from them.
The loan grant.
It's a 1% interest
Did they
loan.
get an encroachment permit from DOT?
I
Yeah.
think that's been part of this bundle. I don't know. Their engineers, been doing that.
Yeah.
Because they had the same conversation about the one behind Remax, of where their drive approaches were gonna be permitted. I think the one that's there on 64 is really the only one that they want. And then they're gonna come down to, Freya, because there's a road that's not a village road, but it's wide enough to be a village road. That Mr.
Hey, guys, that was
So back, I'm sorry.
so the December council meeting is the 23rd.
Is that right?
The 16th. 16th.
Is that, isn't that the
The
third Tuesday?
16th?
The mayor said the 16th. Let's see.
Might be the second.
Probably not the 23rd, because that would be the week of Christmas.
We have it on our calendars.
Yeah, it's the third Tuesday, December 16th. Still at
So we
5:30.
need to be able to schedule,
Something the first week of December,
We currently have it for December 4th, that Thursday.
if that works for everyone, then it's just a matter of what hour on that we can get agendas prepared.
We could figure that. That's just kind of what we said last month, 4:10 again. So.
Okay.
You say that, but I think it is. Can we get an update on it?
So as far as I didn't know much about it, just a little Reg had told me, but I got an email from Mr. Maloney. Let's see, was it on Friday?
But, Mr. Chairman, I just have concern because there could be an application coming before this body. And this is a quasi judicial, should that application come, it's gonna be a variance. That's a quasi judicial role that all the commissioners have to fill. You're judge and jury on that.
You're saying we shouldn't know anything about it until we get that?
I'm not saying that, I'm saying that I really find it inappropriate to talk about it on a public meeting, to talk about it, even the details and the history, because the application could be made for you to judge on.
Well, we can't act on what might happen in the future.
Well, I just think
That's not
it's,
where we're at.
no, I think this is where we're at. But even talking about this case with the potential that an application's coming would just be more appropriate to talk about when an application comes. And that to put it in a public hearing, I just
I
feel a
think
lot.
it's part of the powers of our commission here, Santos.
I strongly disagree.
Well,
Then
you're not up
if
here.
you-
You're in the audience, okay? And nobody's recognized you to talk right now. Get some order in here. Hey.
So then,
That's not good.
yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's also gonna be bundled to the state. That's 44 units. That's gonna look at the same financial program where 5 units would be allowed for ownership option. So you'd have 5 behind the Remax that would be for anybody to live in, so long as the household's $121,000 a year. Ideally, another 5 here between Zeb's and True Value. That would be 10 homes built by a private entity rather than the village to address the housing demand that's evident here. I think ultimately, a lot of cities are trying either the rental option plus an ownership option to just provide more things in the spectrum for housing rather than just efficiency units. That this, I think, is part of that same goal. Ultimately, it's just you have a private developer also going to provide at market rate homes in that same development. I think there's 44 units that was approved in that site plan. So you'd have about 39 units that would be market rate and 5 would be managed through this housing program. Yes, which is comparable to what you just saw on the Sangre de Cristo Estates, is that there would be out of the 33, 5 would be with this Housing New Mexico program.
Okay,
And so,
what's the odds of that happening?
So- well, that's why they're rescheduling for here.
Are they gonna be asking for a variance or something here? I haven't heard that.
No.
Sure, sure.
So on that site, there was no variances needed because they weren't encroaching into the Highway 434 side. They actually pulled their buildings back 50 feet on the Highway 64 side. You did look at a site plan that matched that. And that's a different configuration. It actually might be a little bigger than this site here next to Zeb's. They've taken into account the little creeks that are in it. That's gonna be like a green belt for the development.
Remember that.
But Bubba, your question was the likelihood of this happening. Ideally, they're gonna be scheduled for a January hearing with the Housing New Mexico and Albuquerque to get their financing in order, just like the case we just heard next to Zeb's. And so the state has a time clock of, once it's awarded, when it's gotta be, earmarked for reimbursement to get that out of the ground. So, I think that's a strong likelihood of it happening if it's got this funding option where the state's kind of tapping them on the shoulder, which is, I think, why you saw them meet with the village engineer last month, going over their schematics to make sure that this all complies with the standards to bring the water and the sewer in, so.
So what we got is. So.
And any other definition as far as the list, I know I haven't. I don't know of anybody who has a list. Maybe we could try and come up with a list. I don't know how we do that besides maybe going out there physically looking.
Yeah, I think there's like, and there's like moments in time where things got. So we got approved, so things before that would have been, you can tell, I mean,
Yeah,
there's
so
a way to do it.
it's in Title IX. There's a definition for the, it's not listed as grandfather rights. Grandfather rights, just, that's the colloquial term. It's non-conforming. And so, chapter 4, Title IX, section 4-1 talks about what is non-conforming. So the history of Angel Fire is what were the rules prior to annexation. So in 1986, when the village was incorporated, it was just that strip going up North Angel Fire Road to the resort. Everything that was built prior to 1986 is non-conforming. And then you had another annexation in 1998, which was the rest of the resort properties, maybe even the RV park, the mobile home estates behind the RV park. So that there's not one clear date that the village incorporated and annexed all these properties. There's a series of annexations. So you have to look at the history of that lot. What structure was there, even if you go up Halo Pines, right? And you go around the loop to past Horseshoe Bend. There's a pockets that were annexed even after the 98 annex, right? And there were structures built when that was still Colfax County. In fact, some of the roads were still Colfax County roads. They weren't village roads, which is pretty much all the roads here. So you really have to look at the property individual, specific, where it is and where was it at the time of annexation to say, is this non-conforming or not? And that's not gonna be, oh, April the 17th, 1992.
Right.
It's
And it's not gonna be every single property in the whole resort either.
well, but those are your benchmarks.
I mean, but I'm just saying, there's certain, you know, along the highways and those kind of things where it is an issue and where there's setbacks and things. like
Yeah,
that, but
so
it's
you've
not
got-
everywhere.
Yeah, well, we had one, what is it, a year ago, Brett, the carport in the street? Was that a year or 2 years ago?
Year and a couple of months.
So they had a permit from Colfax County for an encroachment of a carport in the street because their property was like this and there was no way to build I guess you could always engineer something, but they left their driveway up on the street and they put a porte cochere over it. And then they sold it. So it was the onus was on the property owner to prove that you have the right to keep that in the street. It wasn't the village's onus to say, yeah, your grandfather. It's because we know you were annexed, show us your history. So they did. There was actually a license agreement that was being discussed to have that as a structure of the right of way. So there are some properties that have history on it, but it's a floating system, you know, that it depends on when it was annexed and what were the rules. Because even what we just discussed on the overlay, so a lot of those structures were done probably before the overall setbacks went in. So we'd have to look at that too.
I'd like to see it done. I mean, we talk about some of these things and people will say, oh, that's grandfather, this and that. And nobody knows, is it truly? Is it really? Until somebody has to start digging into it. I mean, look at this stuff like this easement right here, that, say that this was approved and built and 10 years down the road, somebody says, hey, wait a minute, that's out of compliance or something like that. You have a record of here because of what we did. I think we need to develop that same record for all these other things so that when issues come up, it's there.
We could look at how that gets created. Yeah.
Yeah, Rick.
Yeah, I mean,
It'd take a little while, but,
research. It's specifically.
Well, definitely not, but if you don't start working on it, you're never gonna get it, that's for sure. I mean, and especially whenever these things that are non-conforming for whatever reason, and maybe that reason has lapsed and the property is being sold, and maybe that needs to be fixed. So it is conforming.
So there is a provision in this code that you're in essence grandfathered until your property's sold.
Right.
So, and there are other provisions and this isn't unique to Angel Fire. Grandfather rights are fine, but the moment the structure's vacant for 180 days, 360 days, whatever, well, then you vacated your grandfather rights too. So there's other provisions in the code that capture how long this non-conforming right should be maintained. That there may be properties where everybody understood, well, that's a non-conforming setback. They were at 5 feet. They were here before the code. It wasn't a variance. Because if you get a variance, then there's no need to be grandfathered and you can sell it. It starts
Documented.
Right. But there are some properties that hey, they had a 5-foot setback or whatever, and they sold it. Somebody needs to go back and say, then what are you gonna do with this? I think there might be some non-conforming mobile homes in the village. Just fine if the family's still there, but then somebody needs to investigate, did this unit get sold? If it did, then you need to either get a conditional use permit or you're not in the right zone. So, yes.
That's what I would kind of like to see, almost some kind of policy too, that if something is being bought or sold in certain areas that we know that, like for instance, along the highway here, we do a check for that and then we make them, if there is a non-conformance, document it, get it approved or whatever, and there it is. Right. And honestly, that's probably how it's supposed to work, but it just doesn't. So,
I don't think that's how it's supposed to. That's why you had title agents.
well, that's what through the.
Whenever you're selling a property, it's the title agent's job to do the research.
That's what
And
I'm saying.
every property could have its own conditions that could change whether or not it qualifies a grandfather. And those conditions change. So for us to try and monitor every property in the village, tell me one city that has that.
That has a list of all their variances and non-conforming
No,
properties?
they have, yeah, they have a list of all of their properties and the grandfathering
I don't know if
conditions.
yes, I don't know any other cities or villages or,
I'm just saying, it's not something that, I mean, we could develop a list, but it would take us a long time with all the other work we'd have to do. My guess it'd be in excess of a year, because we'd have to go research all the titles for every property. We'd have to understand the titles before the titles and, what rules were in place at the time those properties were sold. I mean, there's just a lot of variables.
so we can't ever tell if something's grandfathered or not.
Well, we can, but the time that we should try and determine that is when it becomes an issue, as opposed to trying to determine it up front.
You don't think we should correct deficiencies when a property's sold?
I do, but the title agent's responsible for that. That's why they have title insurance.
I don't even know if the title's aware of these grandfathered things. Title agencies are.
They should be, that's their
They were on
job.
the carport exam. That's how they're.
Now, that came in because the property sold. And the title agent wouldn't sign off on it without proper documentation from the builder.
So if these things are selling and the title agency says it's okay and there's a non-conformance on it, then it's fine.
It doesn't show anywhere in there, so. That it's not, that they have to either get a permit for the fence or take it down. I know they're doing that, but I've seen that done a couple of times already.
Well, it's a big on
Some
that.
of the stuff is being caught.
That's a lot of work.
Well, but they've got inspectors that are doing that as part of their
Right.
HOA stuff, but it's not just fences. They're catching greenhouses, they're catching
Right.
sheds. So yes, just what the chairman has said, that there's ongoing effort for about 2/3 of all properties in the village that's being captured.
I wasn't aware it was being pursued that good.
It is,
Yeah.
because what happens is they'll come in and say, they're gonna talk to Rick, I need a fence permit. Hey, I need a shed permit because I can't sell my lot. That's what's that's what's been happening for the last 3 years with HOA properties, is their inspectors catch it at this point of sale. That's how the carport got caught as well, for us to look at it. So there is a mechanism.
Good, I'm feeling better about this.
Yeah, I just don't know if I don't know the need for a running list because there is active stuff being caught and being addressed, coming in for permit where it needs to come in for permit.
Maybe,
We have a guy, we have comment from the audience.
this is Chief Vance, Chairman. Also to add another layer to that, for all commercial properties, whenever they're exchanged, they also have to have a new fire inspection and have to have a new health inspection if it pertains to like a restaurant or food service or something like that. So through those mechanisms, when we go out and we notice any of those things, we're obligated to report that as well. We just had a recent issue that we had to run by planning and zoning to ensure that it met compliance before we gave them an okay to pass their fire inspection. So we're not stepping on their toes and they're not stepping on ours. So there's another layer to that for commercial properties.
Sounds good.
He's gonna come speak.
Hello. Committee Chair, committee members, Rich Strickland. You wanted an update on,
How's it going?
going pretty good. You asked about, easements?
Yeah, particularly things, but it looks like some dirt has been piled up there and there was some work done, but then it wasn't done.
Inside that subdivision
Or
or
no, right on the highway.
on the highway? No.
Yeah.
Well, on June 25th, 2025, we did get a permit from the Department of Transportation to cut our road from 434 into that subdivision. And so I have that, I do have that here. The thought was to, the East Flamingo Road, to straighten it out just a little bit as it enters into 434, so that it's in alignment with, West Flamingo Road going into the, workforce housing subdivision. So that was really the only change. Um, but, we have that. You asked about permits. So we do have a local Village of Angel Flower permit to do our housing project. And the CID permits are being conducted by the MC4 doing business as Homes for Life, which is the mobile home distributor that we're getting the homes from for this subdivision. And then we have some local permits that are being done by our contractors that are actually doing the foundation work. And they're applying for their own permits for the work that they're doing for us. Yes, sir,
Moving along.
I believe so.
Awesome.
Any more questions?
It's just like a charge up to. It's, you can have up to 90 days in jail, so charge there might not be.
Well, and I gotta tell you, the reason that I raised this issue was because of some talk that people had brought to me, some citizens, residents. And they were just concerned that some people got charged this and other people didn't. And I don't know if there's even any basis to that, but they approached me about it and I thought this would be the place to talk about this since we're responsible for these things, so. No, I'm talking about like deposits. Those kind of things. Deposits for permits, deposits for instance, like to get a culvert put in, you gotta put a deposit down.
A gentleman came in yesterday and asked me about it, and I informed him, what the deposit was, and he wasn't happy about it. He said, I just did one of these not that long ago, and it wasn't this much, and for me being new, like, I don't, or what everybody else did, I had no idea.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm going by what I know is to be right, what I've been taught, and I just told the guy, he said, I'm sorry, this is how it has to be done, this is what the deposit is. Said, and from what I understand is, once you're completely, you got your final inspection, it could take up to 6 months to get your deposit back. That's the information I was given.
Yeah, that's the policy you have.
Yeah, so that's what I.
So is that
It might be, with respect to culverts, that fee was adjusted this summer. So there was an old rate.
And that's what I
If
informed him as well.
that guy was like, well, this wasn't what I paid last time.
Yeah, I informed him in July, it went up to the
Yeah.
3,000 as opposed to the 1,500, I think.
Yeah.
Well, what you're saying is your policy is everybody pays it.
Everybody, if you're doing a new encroachment fee, you're gonna pay.
That was the concern that was brought to me, was that it felt like some people didn't have to pay and other people had to pay excessive amounts.
But yeah, see, like I said, I'm not sure how it was before, but I'm telling everybody what I know, what I was taught. Everybody pays this fee.
And I think that's what everyone wants, is consistency. Okay. I'm okay with it as long as Rick's be consistent with it.
Chairman, do you have a preferred time? Do you have a preferred time for your December 4th meeting? If everybody's blocked a day, you're gonna be available 4th?
I think so.
So if the 4th works, just what time? And then second, your bylaws suggest that you should nominate a name to forward to the mayor for consideration to this commission. I need to reach out to Commissioner Reed. This is more than 3 absences to see if he's still able to attend. But it would be worthwhile if we got some names to nominate if we need to. But if we could help Rick out today with time so that he can get the stuff set up for December, that'd be. 3 o'clock?
3 o'clock.
Looks good to me.
Is that open, Ileana?
It is,
Planner
and the
tip.
time.
Hey, wait, Bubba, one thing. Maybe not in December, but maybe in January or February. Would it be possible for us to consider like, I don't know what you call it, like an open meeting to talk about some things or something on some of these topics? Like, what do you call it, a work session? Like, for instance, the two documents around attending the different committee meetings and then the long-range planning, that kind of stuff. Kind of have some workshop sessions around that. I don't know what the
I suggest,
parliamentary procedure is for that.
I would suggest adding that to your December agenda. Adding some time to talk about your draft. Because we really need that incorporated in some of this language on our comp plan. Because there are working drafts and you still have your committees working
Right.
towards this goal. So I'd rather try to get that now rather than February. If there's time in December to talk about that.
We just need to get started on it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's what I would encourage, because I think you're right. It kind of deserves that pass all work session type of discussion. And if we've got time on December, right now, it looks like you got one agenda item, which is this coming back in December, right? That you have, and you're doing it at 3 instead of 3:30, that we could dedicate some time to talk about these drafts and get some comments on it, and from there.
Hi.
How do you vote? Thank you, guys.